Great time. And hopefully next
And maybe even some of us older owners is, but I'm back.
So I made a mistake when I came into this gaming community. No, I don't mean that coming into the community was a mistake, although that's debatable, and I sometimes find myself regretting that choice, but I digress. No, but the real mistake was assuming that since this was a so-called community, that everyone in it was just as, awed and inspired by video games the same way as I am. I assumed that everyone had the same respect and affinity for the artists who created these digital worlds in which we could escape the daily grinds of reality and do and be anything we wanted. I assumed that everyone here was moved and inspired by the art that is video games and held it in the same regard. But I was wrong for that. Very wrong. I now realize that many people, most of which who would like to be thought of as adult men, use this community to continue their adolescent immaturity far beyond their youth, as an extension of their middle school classroom or playground, for them to continue on in their bullying, pseudo-machismo, childish antics. There are some that fester in this community to pump their chests, cheerlead the superiority of their favorite corporation, no different than high school kids in bleachers, screaming at the top of their lungs for their team while heckling the away team bleachers. Their fandom is superficial and doesn't go beyond blind love of their favorite colors, the gang that they roll with. They are just looking to be heard, seeking attention simply for the sake of attention, with no real connection to that for which it would seem they would gladly bleed for. And then there's me, an artist, a nerd for as long as I can remember. Started writing short stories in early elementary school. I excelled in English, social studies, and science. Occasionally, I was too articulate and smart for my poverty-stricken, crime-ridden urban surroundings. Reading The Lord of the Rings and Isaac Asimov and Philip K. Dick's beautiful science fiction stories, adoring the works of Rod Serling, and being a complete Twilight Zone nerd just wasn't cool enough for the hood I grew up in. I found myself suppressing my nerd and dumbing down my personality without even realizing it. In the real world, I had to hide, but in video games, I found freedom. Freedom from the harsh realities of drugs and crime right outside my door. While writing was an escape, it was a passive one. In video games, I could act. I could be the hero to rid the world of evil. I could be the good guy. I could be me. Video games kept me sane in an insane world and became part of who I am, my DNA. Video games became a part of my writing as well. I found myself structuring my stories like video games, and throughout my schooling, as I started to win awards for my writing, and advanced English literature became my major in high school, I found myself writing essays and speeches about video games. So I started to naturally get more into video games and the industry, learning the names of artists, producers, and designers, and naturally learning what inspired them and finding out that it was many of the same things that inspired me. And so like their games, I grew attached to these people. I felt like they understood me. Something that's the most important thing to a kid sometimes, believing somebody understands you. So I took my love for writing into college, where I continued being inspired by games, going on to write A+ term papers on games and artists. I remember a speech I wrote for public speaking on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas that got a rousing ovation. I gotta find that paper. It was really good. I majored in journalism and mass communications, and I became the managing editor for my college's newspaper and Arts and Journalism magazine. We won top 3 in a state competition for college journalism and won a trip to New York City for the Nationals in 2006. We didn't win, but it was a great honor and one of the best memories of my life. I ultimately changed schools and my major to film, and as an indie filmmaker, my works continue to be inspired by video games, including the novel I just finished. It's heavily influenced by not only Star Wars, but more so The Legend of Zelda video games. And so the people that created these games that have inspired me as a person, I often feel are a part of me as well. So when they die, it can feel like a piece of me, a piece of my history also died. So I may feel some pain, and I mourn their loss. Gunpei Yokoi, best known as the creator of the Game Boy, died in 1997. A piece of me also died. When my wife's grandmother, Setsuko, died of cancer, a little bit of me died, as she was the inspiration to me as well. A proud, amazing Japanese woman who, even in sickness, cared more about her family's well-being and gave me a newfound respect for Japanese culture. When Hiroshi Yamauchi, former president of Nintendo, passed in 2013, a piece of me died. And yes, when his hand-picked successor, Satoru Iwata, died just a couple of years later, only a few days ago, I felt pain as a little piece of me died as well. From Balloon Fight to Running HAL Laboratories that brought us not only Kirby, but Mother or Earthbound, games that are among my all-time favorites, but also Masahiro Sakurai and the awesome Smash Bros. Series. These games are embedded in my memory. They are a part of what makes me who I am, and therefore, their creators are a part of me as well. So since I have to understand that there are gamers who have a topical, superficial affinity to video games, meaning they put down their $60 or whatever amount of money to play a game from start to finish, are topically entertained for a few hours, and then they move to the next game unaffected. But please understand that there is a multitude of people out there who truly care about games beyond the superficial. There are those of us who are truly inspired by the medium, by the art, and the artists and designers. Beyond the eye-bleeding graphics, nausea-inducing frame rates, and raw power spec sheets, there are those of us who have a respect beyond sales figures, market share, and company bank accounts. There are those of us who look for deeper meaning in the art that is video games, and we find it wholeheartedly. And it is a joy to our souls, a beautiful set of memories in our hearts. And so when icons of this great industry die, a piece of our hearts, our souls, our beautiful memories also die. And so for us, it's not just plastic. These aren't just games, and their creators aren't just people. For us, gaming is a part of who we are inside. It's a part of what makes us who we are. It's a part of our DNA. And so when we lose that, we lose a part of ourselves, and it's personal, and it hurts. So, can you please understand that?